Well, hey everyone, I'm just coming out to you today to share a little bit of my sabbatical story. I was originally going to do this on a Sunday, kind of the sermon version of my summer vacation, but the more I've shared the story, the more I've realized this really doesn't lend itself to a sermon. It's just a story. And it's a long one, so I'm not even going to tell it all to you today. We're going to drop 3 videos over the next 3 weeks, and if you want to hear a little bit about the journey, well, here's where you can hear it. So, the first part of the sabbatical, or one stream of it, was just all the family time we got to spend together. It's like the happy part of the sabbatical. We put 7,000 miles on our Honda Pilot, zigzagging through the Midwest and the East Coast. We touched 22 states. And if there's one word that would sum up our good family times, it was water. We were just in the water all the time. We were at the community pool in Orange City. We were at lakes in Branson, Missouri, and North Carolina and New England. We were in mountain streams. Sometimes we were playing in waterfalls. We got to drive wave runners one day. We made a couple of day trips to the Jersey Shore. If it was wet and you could get in it, we were in it. And we took a lot of videos and a lot of pictures, and we made a lot of great memories, and we're grateful for that. But the real sabbatical journey is the one underneath that one, and it's the one my soul took. And it was probably about 7,000 miles long, and my brain probably touched 22 states. I was just wrestling with God and with myself. There were a lot of things in my life over the course of my life that bit me in the rear end, and they were biting harder and more frequently in recent years. And I just knew that I had to do some work there. As much as I would love to blame other people for those things, I'm the common factor in them all. And the real purpose of the sabbatical was to see if I could get some self-understanding and some healing. And with the help of my sabbatical coach, we started looking under the hood of my life. That followed 2 kinds of streams. One I'll call the personality stream. How am I created and wired up? How do I see the world? And I had to come to grips with the fact that I'm a perfectionist. I knew that, but I didn't always know what it was like to be on the other side of that, to be on the receiving end of my perfectionism. In my best self, I can be a reformer. And that's what some people call my type of person. I'm a reformer. And, I can see what's wrong and help make it right. I can take something that's broken and undeveloped, and by God's grace and His gifting to me, I can help bring it to more wholeness and fullness. But the shadow side of that is perfectionism and an overweening idealism. And I have this inner critic that's always looking at me and always looking at the world and naming and identifying what's wrong, what's off, what could be better. In fact, if there was like a motto that I implicitly have lived by, it could always be better. Always, everything. Some people, maybe you're like this. You look at your past and you're like, you know what? If I could go back and do it over again, I wouldn't change a thing. That's wonderful, but I do not understand it because I'd changed 20 things about yesterday. And it's just the way I am. It could always be better. But what happens when you're on the receiving side of that? Especially from, a father or a pastor, even a church staff can start to feel like, what? Our prayers aren't fervent enough. Our seeking first the kingdom isn't diligent enough. Even our community, it's just not rich and deep enough. It could always be better. And people can start to feel like, what? It's never enough, and I'm not enough. And that's at the very heart of shame. This sense of, I am not enough. God bless the people who are putting those placards in their yard saying, you are enough. They're just trying to bring a word of hope and encouragement to people who feel so ashamed or so inadequate to deal with life, especially as it's being dealt to them these days. And I had to realize that I think I was the author of some of the shaming that was happening. And then it all started coming back to me, and I realized how I have not been enough for other people. I've not been enough of what they need. And the flip side of that for perfectionists like me is that, we can often just be too much for people. They'll be like, you're not a bad person, you're a good person, but you're just too much. And I need some distance. And so I had to wrestle with all of this, and it was painful to come to grips with. That was the personality stream. Then there was like this psychotherapeutic stream, where you go into your past and childhood memories and unresolved traumas and feeble coping mechanisms you develop. And we did this work. Right down to like, what's your earliest childhood memory? And I could take you to the row home in New Holland, Pennsylvania, where my earliest childhood memory is. It was just one of the daycare homes that I got dropped off to. This one I did not like. It was a dark house. The woman smoked and wore a house coat, and that was my daycare, child caregiver. Actually, my earliest memory is the day that my dad got injured at work and left early, picked me up early, and I remember coming out of that dark house into the light, and it was like best day ever. Well, my sabbatical coach, like a good therapist, let's sit with that memory for a few minutes. Well, in about 5 minutes, he had me absolutely weeping about that. And we didn't just process that memory, but I did a whole storying project where I wrote down every childhood memory I could think of, and then the emotions attached to those memories, and then the interpretation of those memories for my life today. And I realized that, I had written this narrative that basically said, I am on my own. When I need people most, they will not be there for me. So I'm on my own, I got God, but it's me and God, and that's all. The experts talk about babies needing to form secure attachment with their parents. They come into a world and they're scared and distressed, and they cry, and they want to form secure attachment with a caregiver, with a parent. And when parents are attentive to babies and give them the care they need, and they feed them and change them and love them and hug them and hold them and make good eye contact, that baby begins to form this implicit understanding that while the world may have any number of pains or discomforts, there will always be someone there for me. If you don't fully form secure attachment, the experts will put you into one of three other buckets. And one of those buckets is called relationally avoidant. And I was like, I think I fit into that bucket. You don't trust that people will be there for you. And you just keep a certain distance and aloofness relationally. You need people, but you don't need them to be that close. And I came to realize that I think this is how I've conducted my relationships. It's like my relational thermostat just set pretty low. A kind of coolness feels normal and comfortable to me. And then I had to kind of look at that alongside the fact that I had become so reactive in so many ways. A person like me, we feel like we can fix anything with enough hard work. But during the pandemic, when problems were piling up and many of them unsolvable, I'm still attacking it as if I can fix it. And here comes the latest problem, maybe coming in an email, and we can fix this thing, and I start typing. And I came to realize that even if what I typed was gracious and wise and right, the fact that I was typing, I was already wrong. Because I was just operating out of this reactive consciousness. It was a reactive mode. This has brought a lot of pain and distress to the people and the causes in this world that I care about. And it was grievous to come to own these things. I shed a lot of tears this summer. I think every day for the first half of the summer, I had a really good cry. And some of that was like true, like godly sorrow. I'm sure some of it was just self-pity and everything else in between. You know, the path for the sabbatical was supposed to be rest, recalibration, re-entry. The first half of the sabbatical was anything but restful for me and my soul. In fact, it was probably more like the stages of grief, you know, like denial and anger and bargaining and depression in any given order. And I was just a mess, and I did not know what to do. But God did. And in the middle of my sabbatical, there was a pivotal time. And well, that's my cliffhanger. I'll tell you about that pivotal moment next time. Thanks so much for listening in.